Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down the current state of PS5 jailbreaking by firmware version. So if you've ever wondered what jailbreak method applies to your PlayStation 5 and really what the current limitations are, then this video guide is going to walk you through every major firmware change from 3.00 to 13.40, which was just released today. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So the first thing that I want to note is that for these very early firmwares, 0 to 2.00, I'm not including those on the PS5 jailbreak methods today, mainly because there is really no one that has those machines. And then secondly, there really isn't a whole lot that you can do with it. So anyways, for this guide, I wanted to be a little bit more practical. And so for PS5 systems running firmware 3.00 all the way up through 5.50, the primary jailbreak path uses a combination of a WebKit exploit and the UMTX kernel exploit. So WebKit provides the initial entry point through the browser, while UMTX, which stands for Unlimited Mutex, is used to gain elevated privileges and achieve the jailbreak. Now, one thing that I will say is that for 3.00 all the way up to 5.50, this is one of the fastest and I would say one of the most straightforward jailbreak methods that you can currently find on the PlayStation 5. And so the three top things that comes to mind here is that number one, it's a browser-based entry point, so super easy to get set up with. The second thing is that there is no Blu-ray disc requirements that's on this. And then the third thing is that you can run Linux on any of the firmwares within this version right here. And obviously we have been seeing all of the wonderful power that Linux brings to a PlayStation 5. So really you get an absolutely amazing Linux desktop environment as well as the ability to play really the catalog of PlayStation 5 games. So if your console is between this range here, you are in one of the most mature jailbreak environments that is currently available. Okay, so moving into firmware versions 6.00 all the way up through 10.01, the preferred method is Y2JB, which is also known as the YouTube to jailbreak. So this technique leverages the YouTube application as an entry point and automatically launches the Lapse exploit chain. So this process simplifies what typically is a more manual exploit workflow, and it provides a relatively user-friendly jailbreak experience. Now, the one thing I will call out is that firmware's 6.02 you can also run Linux on, but nothing above 6.02 at this moment. Now, I think that for most users, Y2JB became the bridge between some of these older WebKit-based exploits and some of the newer techniques that's currently out here. Now, I will say as a prior owner of a 7.61 machine where we would also just use the Blu-ray disc, I eventually upgraded myself to 10.01 and just started using the Y2JB with Lapse in order to get jailbroken. Now, really what I liked about this was that how easy it was to get set up, really just by restoring a backup if you didn't have anything on there, or using one of the prior jailbreaks to come in and update your download0.dat file. For firmware versions 10.20 all the way up to 12.00, the approach here is by using BDJB and then chaining that with the Poops exploit. Now, before the BDJB can be used effectively, especially on some of these higher firmwares right here, you do need to run a Unpatcher in order to run that disk. Now, I can speak a lot of this from experience as I have a 12.00, which is my daily driver, and currently I am just putting in a disk and I am hitting a button to start it, and automatically I am loading ELFs. Now, I've also been loading Payload Manager as well, and then just selecting which ELFs that I wanted to boot since I've been playing with a lot of experimental builds. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is that this is a disk-based execution chain, so you will need to have a working drive in your PlayStation 5. And there is a lot of benefits on staying on some of these later firmware. So again, speaking from a 12.00 experience, I have never dealt with backports because I have literally been on these later firmware since I was absolutely able to. Yes, I still have some older machines over here that I use for videos, but my 12.00 is my daily driver. And all of the games just work out of the box. There's no backporting or anything like that. Now, for firmwares 12.02 all the way up through 12.40, the recommended solution here is by using YouTube Jailbreak along with something that is called Patience to Jailbreak. So this is an exploit chain here, which usually takes right around 50 minutes. And so the typical workflow over here is launching the YouTube Jailbreak, executing the Patience to Jailbreak, waiting 50 minutes, and then be able to achieve the jailbreak state. Now, the reason that even if we go ahead and we unpatch the BDJ over here on this firmware, the problem is that Poopsploit only works up to firmwares 12.00. So if you do go ahead and unpatch BDJ on these firmwares right here, that is a really good idea because we may get a kernel exploit chained with it in the future. Now, I do own a 12.40 machine, and obviously there is a couple of different methods to automatically run the YouTube application, as well as Patience to Jailbreak, and then auto load some ELF files. But what I've found is that as long as you're only using something like Shadow Mount Plus and KStuff Lite, you're probably going to be good without any sort of kernel panics, etc. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I am telling you the recommended path. Now, you could, if you purchased one of these Lua games or Star Wars Racer Revenge, you could use that over here, but in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense because this you can run without any sort of dependency on the disk drive. Now, for firmware versions 12.60 all the way up through 12.70, the only approach that you can currently use is by using either Lua scripting through the Artemis engine, Yarpe, which leverages a RenPy-based game, or Star Wars Racer Revenge, which has a save game exploit that we can take advantage of. Now, all of these entry points here are combined with Patience to Jailbreak, and again, this will take right around 50 minutes. Now, what's interesting in my opinion on this one is that there is a lot of us that have been able to reuse the Lua games that we used over on the PlayStation 4. But if you are on these firmwares, you can absolutely find one of the Lua games for very cheap, especially compared to something like Star Wars Racer Revenge, which is still extremely expensive. And then for PS5 versions 13.00 all the way up to 13.40, which just released today, there is no jailbreak that is publicly available for that, and there is nothing that you can do with one of those systems today. Now, absolutely, some of our userland entry points are working totally fine over here on these firmwares, but for those of us that are just looking at an actual jailbreak, you won't find anything there right now. Now, down at the bottom of this guide, I do have a little bit of a glossary because I want everybody to be able to understand what is currently going on. Anyways, if you liked this video or got something out of it, don't forget to share it on Reddit and other places like that. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Michael